After we announced my pregnancy, my sister-in-law's plan to humiliate me at my husband's party completely backfired, landing her in jail and ending in a divorce. For the last 7 years, I, 29F, have been married to Harry. I enjoy everything about our marriage, except for his relationship with his sister Kayla, who brings nothing but negativity into our lives. Now, don't get me wrong. When I initially met Kayla, I loved her. But over time, my opinion of her rapidly changed. She is poisonous, manipulative, and extremely negative. Knowing the kind of person she is, I've spent years working hard to stay on her good side. When my husband was 17, he dated Kayla's best friend. They eventually broke up because he felt pressured to be with her due to Kayla's influence. Years later, when he was 23 and single again, Kayla tried to set him up with another one of her friends. He disagreed, and she ran crying to their parents about how she wanted him to marry someone she was comfortable with. Thankfully, his parents didn't really take her side. During all of this, while Harry and I were getting to know each other and falling in love, his parents were incredibly supportive, but Kayla always treated me coldly. She would constantly bring up Harry's exes for no reason when I was present. She'd remind him of how well they were doing and suggest that he should reach out to them. This behavior went on for a while. Even Harry found it strange and eventually asked her to stop. When she was confronted, she'd become enraged and start mocking me, saying I was just jealous and that Harry shouldn't be with someone like me. She even deliberately invited one of Harry's exes over whenever his parents invited us to dinner. She claimed it was a coincidence, that she had just run into them and had to invite them politely. It was obviously intentional. Although she doesn't follow me on Instagram, I noticed she constantly watches my stories. She's usually the first to view them. If a man comments on one of my photos, she immediately runs to Harry and complains that I'm sharing indecent images of myself. Harry and I would often chuckle at her ridiculous accusations. She even tried to persuade Harry to break up with me when we decided to move in together. She told him I had too many flaws as a woman and that she could find someone far better than me. This really wounded me, especially since I had always been friendly to her. Sadly, Kayla's treatment of me got even worse when Harry and I got engaged. As we announced our engagement, everyone started clapping and celebrating. Everyone except Kayla. She remained strangely quiet, then suddenly stood up from her chair and stormed out of the gathering. Later, she called Harry, sobbing and yelling about how she didn't appreciate finding out with everyone else. She claimed she was the closest person to him and should have been the first to know. She later messaged me, almost threateningly, giving unsolicited advice on how I should treat her brother. She insisted that she had always been the only woman in his life. The message was so bizarre that I nearly shuddered. I left it on scene, which must have offended her even more. I didn't even bother responding. After that, whenever Kayla saw me, she progressively ignored me. Strangely, she remained involved in all the wedding preparations. She came dress shopping, attended my bridal shower, and more. Both my fiancé and future mother-in-law called her out several times. Her criticisms of the wedding only escalated. One day, she overheard me discussing the centerpiece design with my future mother-in-law, and immediately began mocking me, saying my choice had no class. She said this was why she had always wanted her brother to marry someone better. That was the tipping point. I lost control. I made it crystal clear that she was no longer invited to our wedding. I yelled at her, telling her I could no longer stand her constant taunting and criticism. Kayla looked shocked and gasped in disbelief, as if she had never expected me to stand up to her. She was furious, even though my mother-in-law supported my decision. Later, Kayla contacted Harry again, whining about how I had embarrassed her, and insisted that he should control me, since I was going to be his wife. Harry stood firm. He told her he supported my decision completely and that she wouldn't be welcome at our wedding unless she apologized. Kayla grudgingly texted me what seemed like a sincere apology. I saw it and once again left it unread. I was already exhausted with wedding prep and wanted nothing to do with her drama. In the end, she did attend the wedding, but only because I didn't want her criticizing us afterward. Since I wanted her to not criticize us afterward, everyone, including the guests, seemed to have no issue following the pink tones and pastels chosen for my wedding. But she arrived looking as though she were attending a funeral, a black floor-length gown with a veil. To put it mildly, we were stunned. She visited everyone, sharing her grief over losing her brother to another woman. My husband approached her about her choice of attire and how uncomfortable it was for everyone. She claimed she had the right to wear whatever she wanted and accused me of being too domineering. She sought to portray herself as the victim. When her non-stop scene-making persisted, my mother-in-law and father-in-law ultimately ordered her to leave. It was deeply embarrassing for me. Ever since that day, I've avoided her completely. I also forbade her from being anywhere near our child. When I delivered my son, Nate, she tried to oppose my decision, but my husband's parents supported me entirely. They understood exactly why I wanted her kept far from my infant. She suffered a miscarriage with her then-boyfriend Jamie 2 years ago, and it shattered her. It was a devastating time for everyone. Given our own position as new parents, Harry and I felt bad for her. We chose to be a bit more lenient afterward. She started connecting with Nate, so we welcomed her into our home again. Despite her history with me, she was rather lovely to our son, which, frankly, shocked me. At first it seemed she had changed, but over time she returned to her old self. She constantly talked about how difficult her life was, how things never worked out for her, and she always blamed ex-friends or former managers for everything wrong in her life. I've come to realize that in her world, she's never wrong. She always tries to get people on her side by playing the victim, and she rarely acknowledges any fault in her confrontations. She chose to get married this year and invited everyone, except us. Given that our relationship had seemed to improve, Harry was surprised to learn we weren't invited. She explained that she didn't want me there because I would cause a disturbance. When we asked why, since I'd never done anything to her, I called her directly to ask what she meant. Kayla told me that since she had deliberately dressed in all black at our wedding, she was now worried I might do the same at hers. That's why she didn't want me there. I told my husband how manipulative she was, and he was outraged. After discussing it with his parents, Harry told Kayla that none of them would be attending her wedding, and they wouldn't pay for it either. She burst into tears and blamed me for starting this disaster. Her own husband told her she had no right to point fingers at me, especially after freely admitting her past behavior. Still, Kayla tried to explain it away, saying I should just get over it since our wedding was long ago. Later, she contacted me again to apologize and ask for forgiveness, even though my in-laws still refused to pay for her wedding. As much as I hate to admit it, Kayla can be quite charming and persuasive when she wants something. Wanting to move forward from the past, I forgave her. Her wedding to Jamie went perfectly. We all attended and actually had a good time. But not even 6 months later, Kayla showed up at our door, complaining that her marriage was falling apart. Harry and I let her stay with us for a few days, during which she spent hours venting about her husband. They were apparently struggling to conceive, and Kayla was blaming Jamie for everything. She became hyper-focused on our lives, trying to invent problems that didn't exist. For instance, I go to the gym every morning before work. If I'm running late, I'll grab my work clothes and change after my workout. Kayla observed this for a while and started asking odd questions, like why I showered or why I even needed the gym at all. I didn't think much of it and simply told her I like staying fit and prefer not to show up to work sweaty. She would nod and lick her lips. One day, while we were having lunch, my mother-in-law was talking about a friend who recently divorced after catching her husband cheating. Kayla interrupted to ask my husband whether we had signed a prenup before marriage. We all paused and stared at her, stunned. We stopped eating. She glanced at my husband expectantly, as if I hadn't even arrived. My husband told her straightforwardly that he's not someone who minces his words. He and I both make rather good money, and we felt no need for a prenup. Still, she snorted and began to say that he could be blindsided any day, and that cheaters abound today. Her statements offended me, so I asked her to clarify exactly what she meant. She then began to remark that I was obviously seeing someone else, given that I was always carrying a change of clothes. She said that, as Harry's sister, it was her obligation to warn her brother. These were shocking remarks. Phil and Mill arrived immediately to stop her from continuing to fabricate such nonsense, advising her not to interfere with other people's marriages. But without missing a beat, she continued, emphasizing how she was only trying to be there for her brother. Then, she jokingly asked if our son Nate was even Harry's, since he didn't quite look like him. I swear, I saw pure rage on my husband's face. In my life, I had never seen him that angry. Looking Kayla squarely in the eye, he told her that she wasn't a mother yet because she didn't deserve to be one, and that her child would be better off in paradise than with someone like her. Kayla's lips hung in stunned disbelief. Mil and Fil simply watched silently as my husband stormed off. Kayla started complaining about how I was a shameless person trying to ruin everything because my life had nothing to offer. She called me a loser, said I did nothing all day while my husband worked non-stop, and insisted I was projecting. Harry shot back, telling her she should focus on her own crumbling marriage instead of pointing fingers at me or asking about prenups. Reduced to tears, Kayla began to wail. Expecting comfort, she turned to Jamie, seated right next to her, but he didn't speak. My husband never has this kind of emotional collapse. She eventually got up and dashed into the toilet. My husband was still boiling. I stroked his hand as Emil arrived to calm him down. She understood how frustrating Kayla could be. I nodded as Harry apologized for what his sister had said about our son. After everything Kayla had put us through, I was actually relieved to see my husband stand up for me so publicly. He apologized to Jamie, but completely ignored Kayla once he had cooled off. That day, after lunch, we cut off all contact with Kayla. Her actions were affecting not just me, but my husband too. We simply barred her from everything. Later that afternoon, Emil and Fiel spoke with us and agreed Kayla had gone too far. They could see how their usually calm son had been pushed to the edge. We haven't spoken to her in over a year, and honestly, everything has been peaceful. 2 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. Given that we weren't even trying, it was a beautiful surprise. Welcoming another family member was a blessing, and my spouse and I decided to share the news on Harry's birthday. Mil and Fil were throwing a beautiful celebration in their backyard. They had invited close friends and family. Somehow Kayla found out and chose to show her face. When we saw her, my husband and I were stunned. She came up and hugged Harry. She told him how much she had missed him and how sorry she was for their last fight. Taking my hand, my husband advised his sister to apologize to me too, for all the times she had attacked my character. She nodded, looked at me, and apologized. She told me she had been attending therapy for the past few months and had come to realize how inappropriately she had treated me. Though I disagreed with everything she said, I nodded politely. I wanted to avoid a scene during my husband's birthday celebration. Mill and Phil checked in with us and said they'd kick her out if we felt uncomfortable, as they hadn't known she would attend. Harry, however, didn't want to cause a scene, so we let it go. Strangely, Kayla was laughing and socializing with everyone. She mentioned therapy, so I gave her the benefit of the doubt, even though her upbeat demeanor was very unlike her. Then came the moment when Harry spoke. His speech was beautiful. He said he was the luckiest man on earth and was grateful for another year with the woman he loved. When it came time to cut the cake, his words made me blush like we were dating all over again. I couldn't help but feel blessed to be in love with my husband after all these years. His remarks made me flush with delight, just like when we first started dating all those years ago. I couldn't help but feel grateful that my husband and I were still so deeply in love. Then Harry and I made the decision to share some fantastic news. Grinning, we announced to everyone that we were having a baby. For a moment, there was silence as everyone processed the news. Then the room erupted in cheers. My mother rushed over to hug me, tears streaming down her face. Phil clapped Harry on the back, eyes glassy with emotion. Everyone was eager to know if we had picked a baby name and genuinely thrilled for us. Everyone, except for Kayla. She stood out like a sore thumb, her expression stunned. Her mood shifted, and she quietly turned away, looking irritated. I assumed maybe she was just processing the news, though a small part of me worried she might try to ruin yet another celebration. I was quickly distracted by other guests coming to chat. As I got up to help my in-laws carry lunch, Rick and my parents insisted I sit down, reminding me I shouldn't be moving too much at this point in the pregnancy. That's when Kayla approached me, beaming. She said she was so excited about the baby and wanted to personally serve me dinner as a way to make up for all the times she'd been nasty to me in the past. She handed me a plate and smiled warmly. I nodded and politely accepted it. As she turned and walked away, I was about to dig in when something caught my eye: shrimp. I'm severely allergic to shrimp. I was stunned that she would serve it to me. Disappointed, I shook my head, stood up, and decided to get my own lunch instead. At that moment, Jamie came over to congratulate me on the pregnancy. After a short chat, he noticed I wasn't eating. I explained that Kayla had brought me shrimp by mistake. Jamie, who loves shrimp, said not to worry and offered to eat it instead, insisting I get a fresh plate. I smiled, nodded, and stepped aside. Not 5 minutes later, Jamie began to gag and vomit violently. Everyone stopped eating and stared in concern as he struggled to stand. Harry and Kayla rushed toward him as he pointed at his plate, and then at his throat. Everyone's eyes widened in horror as he collapsed to the ground. Kayla rushed to his side and examined the dish. Her eyes widened in shock. She turned to me and asked, "Did you give my husband your plate?" I nodded, unsure what was happening. Someone called an ambulance and Jamie was rushed to the hospital. Kayla sobbed non-stop, glaring at me the entire time. Later, we were told Jamie had been poisoned. Knowing that the plate originally belonged to me, I nearly fainted. Whatever had made him sick might have poisoned my baby and me too. Harry, Emil, Phil, and even my parents didn't yet know this detail, that the dish was originally mine. But I knew I would have to tell the truth to the police if things escalated. The police were called to collect evidence, and Jamie is still in recovery as I write this. Kayla spent the night at the hospital with him. Meanwhile, relatives were calling non-stop, trying to figure out what happened and who might have done this. Emil and Phil are so shaken they're staying at our house because they're terrified to return to their own. Everything had been going so well, and then suddenly this. I'm terrified. I told everyone that Kayla had brought me that plate. What if this turns into a full investigation? I'll have to be honest about everything. More than anything, I'm scared of what my sister-in-law is capable of. I can't be around her. I certainly can't have my children anywhere near her. If she really tried to poison me, she has no boundaries. I feel horrible about what happened to Jamie. I should have just thrown the plate away. I don't know why I let him take it. I can't stop crying about what might happen to him. I'm filled with guilt. Harry doesn't yet know all the details. He thinks I'm just overwhelmed with worry. He's been by my side constantly. Someone commented earlier that I should sit down with everyone and explain everything gently. I agree. I don't know if everyone will believe me. But Mael and Phil have security cameras set up all around their backyard where the party took place. I'm hoping the footage confirms what I know to be true, that Kayla handed me that dish. I'm going to talk to everyone tonight. Although I wasn't sure if everyone would believe me, my mother-in-law and father-in-law had security cameras set up around the house. Since the birthday celebration took place in their backyard, I was confident they could check the footage and confirm that Kayla had presented me with the plate. I planned to speak with everyone that evening. We had that conversation, and I have to say, I am incredibly lucky to have the kindest in-laws on the planet. Emil and Fael were already staying with us, so I sat down with Harry and them over dinner to share everything. I began by taking a deep breath, the weight of the situation pressing heavily on me. Everyone gathered around as I recounted the events at the birthday party, including how Kayla had handed me a plate of prawns, something I'm highly allergic to, and how Jamie had ended up eating it and falling sick. Their shock and disbelief mirrored my own. Mill and Phil exchanged worried glances, while Harry's face turned from confusion to pure rage. I continued, sharing my deeper concerns about Kayla's intentions and her past efforts to hurt me. I told them I hadn't spoken sooner because I was worried about the potential repercussions for both myself and our unborn child. But Mill, being the practical woman she is, immediately suggested checking the security footage. Fael nodded in agreement, visibly shaken. Harry remained silent, trying to process what I had just said. We reviewed the camera footage from the backyard, and the truth was undeniable. The video clearly showed Kayla handing me the plate and everything that followed. The weight of the evidence left no room for doubt. Harry was furious. Mill and Phil were horrified by their daughter's actions and shocked at how far she had gone to cause harm. We sat in stunned silence, trying to understand how she could do such a thing. Given the seriousness of the situation, my in-laws decided to forward the footage to the police. Since Jamie was the one who had been poisoned, it would be up to him to press charges. Phil and Harry planned to visit him after he recovered to explain everything. Every time I think about Jamie eating my poison plate, I feel a deep, crushing guilt. I have no idea how he will respond, and I'm anxious. I haven't been able to eat properly or sleep well since it happened. I'll keep you updated if anything major unfolds. All right, everyone. I'm back with an update. It's been a month since my last post, and as a pregnant woman, I've had a lot going on. First of all, Kayla was arrested. Once the police saw the video footage my in-laws provided, she didn't even try to deny it. She confessed immediately, crying as she did. Jamie, understandably, was as shocked as the rest of us. When Harry explained what happened, he was devastated. Still, Harry reassured him that he would always be part of our family no matter what he decided to do. Jamie ultimately chose to press charges against Kayla and also filed for divorce. Kayla, who we've now learned is also pregnant, tried to manipulate Mil and Fil by begging for forgiveness for the sake of their granddaughter. She pleaded with them to bail her out, but Fil stood firm. He told her it was time she took responsibility for her actions, and that they were done coddling her. Mil was understandably heartbroken. Despite being her daughter, she couldn't overlook the seriousness of what Kayla had done. The police discovered that Kayla had intentionally tampered with the meal, intending to harm me, which instead injured her own husband. She's been charged with multiple offenses, including endangerment, causing bodily harm, and tampering with food, thereby compromising public safety. Despite her claims that it was all somehow my fault, Jamie remained resolute in holding her accountable. Her court date is coming soon, and it's highly unlikely she'll avoid punishment this time. As for my son, he's doing fine, and has no idea what his aunt has done. Harry and I have decided that when the time is right, we'll sit down and have an honest but age-appropriate conversation with him. It won't be easy, but it's necessary. My doctor has scheduled me for bi-weekly ultrasounds, and thankfully everything with the pregnancy seems fine so far. We've chosen not to find out the baby's gender. It'll be a surprise. After all that's happened, my parents have become more protective of me. They've encouraged me to seek therapy, especially since I've developed an intense fear of food that I haven't prepared myself. I now avoid eating out entirely. Harry has been incredibly supportive and patient. We're working through it together. I have not been able to eat anything I didn't prepare myself. Hopefully, my husband will continue to help me overcome this irrational fear, as he knows about it and has been supportive throughout. The last time I checked in was 8 months ago. Kayla is now in prison. She was found guilty on all charges. I never attended her court hearings, but my in-laws would occasionally update me. Kayla confessed everything in court. She admitted to years of jealousy. She had always fantasized that one of her best friends would marry her brother, Harry. So when he started dating me, she felt threatened and began harassing me. She never wanted an outsider to become part of their family. She also confessed that when we announced my pregnancy at Harry's birthday party, it triggered her because she had planned to announce her own pregnancy that day too. She felt like we had stolen her moment, especially since she'd suffered a miscarriage before. Fueled by jealousy and pregnancy hormones, she mixed a small amount of rat poison into the dish she served me. She claimed she only meant for me to get sick, not to harm the baby or cause long-term damage. Kayla pleaded with the court for a reduced sentence, arguing that she didn't expect her husband would end up eating the poisoned dish, that she never meant for Jamie to suffer. But of course, the judge didn't see it that way. She was sentenced and will be away from our lives for a long time. Jamie, now free, finalized the divorce. We've stayed in touch and make sure to include him in our family gatherings when possible. He told me, repeatedly, that it was not my fault. I apologized to him again and again for passing my plate to him. I'd been replaying that moment in my mind for months, wishing I had done things differently. When I broke down crying, he simply told me that he was doing well and that he held no grudge. That meant more to me than I could ever express. As for Harry and me, we now have a beautiful baby daughter. Her arrival has brought so much light into our home, helping to dispel the dark cloud of the past. Our son Nate has embraced his role as a big brother with so much joy. He's loving, gentle, and incredibly proud. Watching our children bond has reminded us of what truly matters. Our parents and in-laws have been by our side every step of the way, offering their love and support as we step into this new chapter of our lives.